If you're sick of hiring new care workers only to see them quit within a few weeks or even days, then please keep watching. You're about to discover how to improve your new hire retention immediately. I'm going to show you a powerful tool that will quickly and easily improve your new hire retention with care workers. Now, there's two types of retention. The first one is new hire retention, and the second one is long-standing retention. Now, we're going to focus exclusively on new hire retention in this video, just to differentiate the two. Long-standing retention, this is people who've been with you for months, probably more than a year or so, and the problems associated with new hire retention are quite different from the problems and the challenges of new hire retention. So we're going to focus on the new hire in this short video. So let's quickly remind ourselves why retention matters, because sometimes we think it's just a fact of life and it's something we just have to live with, but it's not the case. The first thing you need to know is it takes time and it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort from usually management to actually recruit new people. That's time and effort that could be put into the core business that is taking away from the core business and having to deal with filling a hole, which is not always the most productive. It also costs a lot of money to kit out new care workers. So these are the most obvious reasons that we improve retention. I say we don't like to spend the time, we don't like to spend the money. If we could avoid it, we would. Now, what you might not be counting up is the added pressure to the rest of your team when you've got vacancies, one or more vacancies. If you've got 8 people, for instance, doing a job that was really designed for 10 people, then that's going to put an awful lot of increased pressure on those existing people. It's a lot of stress. And stress and insufficient time and resources make it almost impossible to do the job properly. Everyone feels like they are having to cut corners, and this increases the likelihood of people quitting. So you can see that it's actually a vicious circle. So if you have a retention issue, then you need to break that cycle somehow. You absolutely have to, in order to see performance rise, to see people being less stressed at work, to see people being more content and happy at work, and therefore staying longer at work. And of course, this ultimately feeds into the long-term retention, because when you've got vacancies, who does it fall on? Well, it falls on usually your more experienced, long-standing employees, and it just adds to their pressure, ultimately starting to feed into that problem of long-term retention. Now, before we go any further, we really need to understand why care workers quit soon after starting. Now, there's many reasons for quitting soon after starting, but most of them, believe it or not, fall under one general broad category, and that's what we're going to focus on. So you can't deal with every scenario. There's all sorts of small scenarios and things just happen, and that's just life. But that's actually the minority of cases. Most people, the reason that they quit falls into this one broad category. And this is where fundamentally the work and the work environment is incompatible with the individual's core personality type. Now, this might be a new concept to you, but I'm going to explain exactly what I mean in some detail. Let me show you this with an illustration. Let's say that the care worker is a good listener, right? If we look at this score here, so this is a People Maps personality gauge pair. So what you can see here is this is someone who scores 95, is that? I really should wear glasses. 95 for is a good listener. So what does that mean? Well, this means they have a very, very strong preference. They are naturally very good at listening to people. It's, in this case here, actually, 95, this is fundamentally their superpower, to be honest, because that's way above average. And what it means is that they take great pride also in their ability to listen to other people, because this is not only their natural preference, it's something they are extremely good at and probably better at than most people. So let's say that you have someone like this, but they're under so much time pressure that they actually never get time. They're not allowed the time that they require to actually listen to people properly, listen to their clients properly. Now, this is a core conflict with their personality type. You see, someone who scores lower for this, maybe even 60 or even 70, probably lower than that, probably 60, below 60 and down, this wouldn't be the thing that would cause them the issue. Now, there'll be other things for them and we would explore them separately, but in this very specific case, we can see what the challenge might be. So they're not getting the time that they feel they need to actually listen properly. Now, if you know this in advance and you understand this and what it means, then it can help you address it and it can help you support it going forward. Training can actually help people manage their time and help them find more time to listen to their clients. You see, it's not sufficient for you to say, you just need to hurry up and go quicker. That's actually just adding to the problem, because that's not what they want to do. What they want to do is actually listen to their clients. So you're kind of tackling the wrong problem. You need to understand the psychology of the individual you're dealing with in order to have the right response. Now, you can help them to do what's important to them. And if you don't, well, you're likely to see them quit. You can see how this would feed into the overall problem. Now, this is just one small issue out of many, many issues we could be focused on. I just picked this one as an example to illustrate something. So your care worker job will suit a minority of personality types quite well, right? So that's really what's going on here, is that there will be some people that what you've got as it stands right now is going to be quite suitable most of the time. But it will also be unsuitable to most personality types a lot of the time as well. Now, this is regardless of skills, qualifications, or experience. It's not about ability. This is purely a function of personality and personality type. Now, your jobs, whatever your vacancy is, your care worker vacancy, that work environment is specific to you. Even though, as I say, you might use the same job title that another place is using, and on the surface it might essentially describe the same and look the same, but all work environments are different and they all vary, and yours will be unique to you, and it's important to understand that. So yours could be very different from how another care home with the exact same job title is the experience that they're providing. So although some will struggle a lot and some less so, you will also find that everyone, because care work is actually quite a complex job, there's a lot of moving parts, what you'll find is that everyone would struggle to some extent with some aspect of care work. And it's really therefore important that we understand not just who struggles and who doesn't, because I think care work being what it is, it's challenging for different people for different reasons, and you need to understand what those are. So you need to know who will struggle with what and to what degree. That's the crux of it. Now, the beautiful thing is that people maps can actually tell you what each individual is likely to struggle with and how much. We'll also, of course, be able to tell you what they will absolutely excel at and where they will, fly home and do it amazingly well. So if you know what the candidate may struggle with, you can explore this during your interviews. And during that exploration, of course, you can then decide whether you think they will actually be able to cope or not. So it's not just a simple case of ruling people in and ruling people out. It's a lot more complex than that, but you need the data, and then with that data you can gather more data in the interview, for instance, and make a much more informed decision. And also, if you know what the candidate may struggle with, you can actually adapt your onboarding and support. Right? Now, this is another crucial area where most people are getting it wrong, and this is one of the major contributors to new hire retention. This is primarily, if you get this wrong in the first week or two, then this is one of the main reasons and the main triggers that you're going to see people quit early on, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So if you understand more about them, then you can actually help them through those first few crucial weeks. These first sort of 4 to 6 weeks are absolutely crucial, and you have no room for error, no room to make mistakes. You do not have a relationship yet with this individual, so you cannot beg forgiveness for getting things wrong. You need to really start strong. And if you do that, then you will get through that early stages, and that buys you time. And with that time, you can do more training and you can help people bed in. You can get them over the hump and help them settle in. Once they're settled in, the chances of them leaving actually reduce significantly. So it's getting through those first 6 weeks is absolutely crucial. And this is why you really need to start strong, both by hiring the right people, understanding who you've hired at a fundamental level, understanding their personality, understanding what they'll struggle with, and then supporting those areas where they will struggle. Now, the areas where they're going to be very strong, you probably don't need to spend any time or effort with, but you'll be able to identify and say to them, oh, okay, this area here, let's see how we can work with you here to help you with that. Now, that's essentially how it all works. Now, let me explain how we do that in some detail. Now, the first thing we would do with you, for instance, we would build a success profile. That's what we call it. This is where we model your best staff, people that have been there for at least a year and that you consider to be great at the job. We don't need to know why they're great. It doesn't matter to us. It only matters that you think, I wish they were all like Joe or Jean or Jim. You just give us some of those people. We will ask them to do the personality questionnaire and we will analyze those results and we will then model those results. So we're looking at not just the general world at large, we're looking at your very specific situation, which is likely to be quite different from a care home up the road, for instance. Now, these results will show you the gauge scores. Now, we looked at those gauges earlier. I just showed you one gauge pair, but we have, I think, 150 different gauge pairs, and we have selected a whole bunch of them that are very specific to care work, for instance. So the results will show you a bunch of gauge scores of your best employees, and then these are what we call your models, and then we can provide you with something to compare candidates against. So we look at that and we say, okay, these are the types of scores you ideally should be looking for. People with these scores are going to likely do well. It tells us that people with similar scores, so candidates who have similar scores to your models or to your, what we would say, okay, this is your success profile, they're likely to perform well in the role as well for the long term, right? That's essentially what we're saying. And if you think about that, it makes a lot of common sense. We typically will find a strong pattern with your existing people, and all we're doing is emulating what is already working. Except we can put numbers to that, put it in a picture, and we can show you exactly so you can see it. You don't have to guess, is this person like my existing good staff? We'll pretty much be able to show you who is and who isn't. This also lets you prioritize your candidates so that you can make time and speak with the best prospects quickly. And that's really important. If you move quickly, if you can move quicker than other employers, then you stand the chance of getting your pick of the best. So if you can have a bunch of people come in and very quickly go, well, you know, out of those 20, these are the 5 we really should start with. Now, I'm not saying you rule out the other 15, of course not, but if you know that these 5 stand a really good chance of working out, so let's process them first. If you can get in quickly, then that makes a huge difference and helps you hire the right people, gives you an edge. Now, this data can then help you even widen your candidate pool, right? Because I know that that's a big issue. Nobody's getting enough candidates right now. So I still don't think it makes sense to hire the wrong people when you know they're wrong. You're probably better with a vacancy, because hiring the wrong person can actually be worse than a man down, if this, as they say. That's a policy decision that you need to make. But we would recommend you're probably better with a vacancy than hiring the fundamentally wrong person. But more importantly, therefore, what you can use this profiling for is actually to widen your candidate pool and consider candidates that you otherwise may have rejected. Because if you look at their personality profile and you go, actually, they're ticking all the boxes in terms of personality, even if they don't tick some of your other boxes that you would normally look for, perhaps experience or other things, then it would move them into the we really must consider these people, where otherwise you would have just rejected them based on the CV. If you're just largely relying on CV-based recruitment, a CV, an application form, and an interview, which is, let's be honest, what most people do, then there's a very good chance you'd be rejecting some very good candidates. Well, we can give you additional data and a different perspective on all of that. So here's just 3 reports that we designed specifically for care industry, where we're looking at care workers. So this report is designed to interview care worker. We've got one here for admin type roles, and we've also got one for care manager type roles. So we would ask you to use the personality report designed specifically to interview candidates for the care worker roles. So this is a pretty unique report because it's designed specifically for that application. Now, the information about the candidate that you really need, fundamentally, it's not included in the CV. What you need to know isn't in the CV. So you're starting with insufficient data. Well, we can help you with that. The personality report will tell you what the CV doesn't, and it will provide you with that crucial information about the candidate that you really need. So for instance, if you know that your success profile, the people on that success profile score between 80 and 90 for as a good listener, then a CV will never tell you how good a listener someone is. No matter what it says, no matter how, there's nothing in there that will fundamentally give you any assurance of how naturally good they are at listening. A personality report will. And that's the fundamental difference. We can provide you with the data that you really need. Now, the personality report also includes several personality-centric interview questions. So again, with each gauge pair and each issue, we will also provide interview questions so that you can actually explore the right areas, talk about the right things, and reassure yourself that the candidate will cope or not. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2. Step 3 is really simple. It's about the onboarding. And I say your personality report will actually tell you things that you need to know to onboard your people more successfully. Remember, we said you need to start strong. So it will provide you support, help you provide support where it is needed most in those first 6 weeks, and that in itself will significantly improve your new hire retention. If you're just onboarding everybody the same way with no consideration to them as an individual, then you're probably causing part of the problem, and we can address that. Okay, so that's really 3 simple steps, and we do most of the work for you. This will save you time. You'll actually spend less time on recruitment, less time processing job applications if you work with People Maps. But you'll also end up with better results. So you just simply can't lose on this. And so the next thing to do, really, next step for you is to read your own personality report for free. And to do that, there is a questionnaire below this video. So simply go down there just now and just take 5 minutes and fill in the questionnaire. We want you to experience firsthand how personality profiling works and judge for yourself. We would never ask you to go anywhere else beyond here without reading your own report. So complete the personality questionnaire below. It literally only takes 5 minutes. I know that sounds amazing, but this report will reveal things and get into stuff and tell you things that you just wouldn't have believed possible. So let me just finish on this really to say that CVs do not tell you what you really need to know. If you're completely dependent on CVs and interviews, then you're working with insufficient data. Even face-to-face interviews, as I say, cannot tell you what you really need to know. A face-to-face interview is not going to tell you how naturally good someone is at listening. Right? All you can do is ask them, are you a good listener? And all they're ever going to say is, yes, I'm really good at listening. End of conversation. It's not telling you anything. It's really just a waste of time. Whereas a personality report will tell you their score, and then you can discuss that score with the candidate in the interview and say, hey, I see that you score 72 for being a good listener. How do you feel about that? Can you give me an example? Can you tell me about a bit more about that? I'm really interested to hear how that comes about. That's a great conversation to be having with candidates. A People Maps personality report will also provide you with the information that you really need to make more informed hiring decisions. And that's really what it comes down to. It's about having the data, being better informed before you make these really expensive and important decisions about who you're going to hire, especially when it comes to new hire retention. The report will also remove a lot of the risk and a lot of the guesswork that goes on, right? It's huge amounts of guesswork. You know, this, I saw this, I read that, and you extrapolate that and go, well, that must mean you'll be good at this. It's a real leap. Well, a personality report will focus and give you some actual data and remove a lot of those unknowns that people tend to work with all the time. That in itself, of course, will improve your new hire retention as a result. So that's really us. Just complete the personality questionnaire below. Read your own report. It's completely free of charge. There's no charge here at all. And just takes 5 minutes to do. So go below this video right now, click on that, takes 5 minutes, do the questionnaire, and I think you'll be absolutely amazed at what it tells you.